Hello and welcome to a very special, very unique episode of Pink Sofa Hour. I am joined by the soon-to-be gone out of the country, Zoe Moff. Hello.
Hi.
You've got an album coming out soon.
Dude, I do.
It's cool.
Really exciting.
I've got it right here.
Oh my
I've been
god.
listening to it all day today, and it reminds me of a couple of things that I honestly didn't really expect from you.
Okay.
The heavy emphasis on this like almost future sound synthesizer, like uncomfortable sometimes dedication to like rhythmic surprises continues to kind of like drive forward a lot of music that I hold very near and dear to my heart. And so my first question is, what inspired you to make an album that sort of is perhaps a departure from some of the other projects that you've been a part of?
Yeah. It's been something like really working on my own original music has been something that's been like knocking on my internal door for like 2 years now. I do this little thing where I write down my goals for the year every new year around December. And for the past 2 years on my like little goal list, I have like make a record. And so that's been happening. And I've been wanting to like explore what's inside me apart from being a bass player and apart from like co-writing with different bands, and apart from like, engineering and doing all the other stuff that I do. I've always like, there was something inside me that was like really, I was like, I need to scratch that itch. It's been, to me, like this record is like an exploration on like a game almost.
Sure.
You know?
I could see that it's a very playful record. It explores some spaces that musically takes a little courage sometimes to actually dive into that kind of a sound. It's as sparse as it is in terms of instrumentation, it feels very complete and full, and it has a lot of things to say. And sometimes I feel like being a Spanish speaker, it speaks to me in a very particular way. But sometimes I don't know if this is an Argentinian thing in general, but like some of the words that you use are surprising to me because, like pleno, for example. Would you like to tell the audience what pleno means?
Yeah, I mean, pleno in Spanish would translate to something that's like complete,
Full.
like full.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And I really almost never hear that word.
Really,
It's something that maybe has fallen out of my vocabulary, or just in Miami we use a different sort of word for that.
That's fair.
But I started kind of digging into where this word shows up in the regular Spanish language, and like pleno verano is like midsummer. Right. So like it doesn't just mean like full in the sense of like it's a full cup, or in the case in the album you say full chest, right?
Full like touch.
Full,
like,
right, full touch.
Like physical
right.
contact and like
Right.
emotional.
Right. I think there was a lyric in there with like pecho,
Yes.
pleno.
Yes.
Kind of fix that up. But yeah, it almost implies sort of like a completeness in a almost spiritual kind of fashion, I feel like.
Yes.
More than like está full or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's really, again, yeah, it's like, it's an exploration, and, exploration to me, like music is spiritual, right? As it is so many other things. So yeah, that song, which is the first song on the record, actually, it's like I call it the intro, because it's like, a track that's only like 1 minute long. It's almost like a spoken word thing.
Yeah.
And as you're saying, the title of the track is Contacto Pleno, and that's almost like a little like poetry spoken word fragment that's really like asking and just really like trying to nourish this like, yeah, it's like plain and full contact that like I feel like we're lacking sometimes, like nowadays in human society, and it's almost like, yo, like we all just need to like really hug each other and like, walk each other through all these things, right?
Yeah. And sometimes physically, sometimes spiritually.
Correct.
Yeah. That and I very much enjoy, as somebody who doesn't get to speak Spanish very often, having new vocabulary kind of given to me that's so poetic. I think that it's very well sort of it's got something you can kind of sink your teeth into lyrically. Yeah.
Yeah, and like that track really like gets the whole record going for me. Because, you know, that track is really not too uncomfortable. It's not too, like, weird to the ear.
It's
Right?
got some space in it that I really like. And as I mentioned to you before we started our conversation, Clipping is the closest artist in my mind to that particular track and that kind of
I've never heard of.
I'm so happy I got to introduce you to an artist.
I listened to that and I was like, I could see that.
And you were using Moog synthesizers on this.
Yeah.
So you guys have a automatic.
Where are they from?
I believe L.A.
Cool.
Yes. Cool. So the main guy, he's a rapper, but he's also an actor.
Nice.
And he shows up in a lot of like classical sort of Broadway kind of stuff.
Oh,
just very talented dude, great orator, and just has a really distinct sort of taste when it comes to like syncopating the way he like has his flow within a track, and like the background of the track oftentimes like doesn't really help you feel like the pulse of it at all necessarily. Which I know that, you know, you didn't draw inspiration from him at all, but it's amazing to see somebody come to that same kind of conclusion, have those same sort of sensibilities. Well, Bestia Göce. Göce, by the way, another awesome word in Spanish that I rarely ever get to hear. It's like ojalá, gozar, you know, it's such a word that's full of meaning.
Yeah.
And it's to, you know, provide a translation to anybody who's not a Spanish speaker. It really is sort of like a joyful kind of like pig in the mud level of enjoyment.
Yeah. It's like pleasure.
Yeah. It's like pleasure, but like it's really a complete form of it where you're actualized. Like, you know, when you're playing bass, it feels like you're gozando.
Right. Yeah.
You're just having a great time, and it's just evident. So bestia, like beast, bestial joy, is sort of in a way what it might be referencing. But what does it mean to you? How'd you pick that?
So that's like, you know, the title track, and so as you said, it's like beast, like, you know, having this like joyful experience. But I do mean this as in beast, as in like something bigger than us, that be like, you know, a system and like different cultures and different like, you know, it's almost like a power structure type beast. That's what beast is referring to. Because, you know, if you think out a beast, you think out something huge.
Sure.
Right? Something that's like probably scary. Something that's really, really powerful. That's going to like stomp and be like, you know, really, really taking over.
Impactful, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And that to me, it's like this system. And, you know, not to say this is a really political record to me. It's a really like playful record. It's a lot of exploration, but it's also like, it's almost like activism in music for me.
Yeah.
Because when I started writing all these songs, you know, the Gaza and the like Israel conflict had just like arisen in the media in October, and then, you know, the Ukraine thing and the South African, like all their like social injustice in the conflict started like rising right when I started like really focusing on putting this EP out. And so this beast stands, you know, like it's basically like everything that's happening, like all these wars, the system. And then the goce, the gozar, this like joy, this pleasure is coming from like all these people, this system, these like power structures are really like taking everything away from us. And they're like enjoying this.
So it's like this dark beast that you're referring to.
It's a really awful beast. We do not like these beasts.
No, it's like it's you don't want them to be having fun.
Oh no. That's the things. They are having fun, and we need to stop
at our expense.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
I see.
Yeah,
interesting. You know, I wasn't sure if I got that on. I did have such a sort of like emotionally dark vibe that I got from it.
Yes.
That I knew that it had to have some kind of impactful statement, because music, you know, even if you don't understand Spanish,
right,
you listen to something like that, you can tell that there's sort of some kind of anguish, yearning, kind of like shit sucks kind of a vibe, which is cool that you specifically kind of had something in mind for what it is that those tracks were trying to say. Yeah. Do you feel like the whole album kind of encompasses that mentality, or does it go in a couple of different directions occasionally?
Yeah, I feel like that's really the main aspect. And then on the other hand, it's just a lot of like, you know, of course, like personal stuff and just a lot of like, I always say that this record, it's almost like me fighting myself and me challenging myself, really. You know what I mean? Because this record gets me out of my comfort zone in all the different ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. And it almost feels like that's also what you are trying to do to the listener in a way. You're pulling them away from like a natural sense of like rhythmic interaction, like that very intro part of Bestia Göce, where you don't really know where the downbeat is for a while, is deeply unsettling.
Yeah, you know? Yeah.
And when it comes in, it's definitely, you can feel like it's very groovy, very cool, but it also continues to have like a sort of dark undercurrent.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, and cool. I'm glad you got that by listening, because that was really the goal. Like, it was really like my goal to make this like a chaotic album almost.
I see.
Dark chaos, like just this feeling of like feeling overwhelmed, feeling like it's a lot. Actually, one of the tracks, kind of like at the hook at the very end where, the climax hits, the vocals are saying es demasiado, which means it's a lot. It's a lot. So it's like, it's way too much. Like, so yeah, that's really what we've been trying to get across.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think this is a very good attempt at encompassing some of those feelings. And I think a lot of people can relate. A lot of people can relate to what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Specifically, with like you said, all the conflict that's going on and sort of almost the terror joy that comes from these massive power structures that exist and seem completely unchangeable. It's almost like doing something like this and establishing a connection to that realization that is the position that we're in, is in and of itself a good, healthy thing to just say out loud.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to actually communicate these things with both, a sense of significance, urgency, whatever you want to call it, but also admitting to the sense of like, what do we do?
Really, the goal too, apart from the dark and the chaotic feeling, it's also this like in your face type sound, and like both musically speaking and in the lyrics, and just like in the way we mix and we produce the track. Because as you're saying, it's almost like it is this sense of urgency, and part of me is like, man, like we really all need to hear this shit like right here. Like we can't be like, just kind of like walking around the issue, You
make it sort of hard to ignore in a way. Like,
yes.
Listening to it isn't. It's not an album you can like tune out and just kind of enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and that's the other thing with me and music. It's like, and don't get me wrong, I listen to super chill music. I listen to a lot of like classical guitar, like, you know what I mean. Like, we'll get to that, but really, to me, this record is an experience within itself. You know what I mean? And that's why, to me, it was important to really craft like a storyline behind it. And, like the order of the songs is important, and I know that nowadays we did like kind of lose that, with the streaming world and the single game and the waterfall release and all these different things. But like, to me, this record within itself, it's like a conceptual record. It's like concept music. And as you're saying, like, it's probably not something that you'll throw in your headphones and just go for a walk and disconnect from the world.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
It would be hard. It would be a challenge, but it would be an interesting walk, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about my favorite track.
Okay.
Puedo Escucharte.
Okay.
That, to me, is almost like if I was driving around in future Miami and I was about to like rob a bank.
Okay.
And I had to like put on a soundtrack to me being a badass and like,
I love that,
doing some kind of heist. That's what that song kind of gives me in terms of energy. It has a lot of it's, I think, out of all the tracks on the album, the most sort of like rhythmically straight ahead.
Yes.
And it's got a lot of really cool sort of bassy sort of riffs in it.
Yeah.
But what does that track mean to you?
Yeah. So first off, interestingly enough, it's the only record that I'm actually playing the only song I'm actually playing electric bass on.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely, it's like I almost call that like the funky Zoe song on the record.
It is fun.
It really is.
Yeah.
Funky, right?
Is Verena's on the last track, right?
Yes, and then Calvin Davis from
Yeah.
Failure Cool and Dimensional Dealer, he's drumming on that. And my friend Krishna Bathory, that's based in Vermont, is the guitar player.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that song really came around. I started writing it when I was just hanging out at my little studio, and my friend had her friends over.
Here in Colorado?
Here in Colorado, yeah,
Okay.
like down at the house where we used to live in Centennial. And I have these moments where I'm a really extroverted person and I love being social, but I also love my own time. And I was,
Happy birthday, by the way.
oh, happy birthday.
We have to get that in there at least once. We can get that a couple times.
Yeah, no, I feel like we gotta tell the audience.
Yeah. We will.
Okay.
Or we can now. So where do
Can I give you
start?
the...
Me and Zoe have the same birthday.
No way. Yeah, we're Aquariuses, February 10th.
Aquariuses, both somewhat sort of extroverted Aquariuses
Yes.
on some level. Me personally, I feel like my extroversion shows up in a really like planned way. You seem very like the spontaneous and extrovert.
Totally, I struggle with planning actually.
Yeah, I have to kind of like think about how I engage with people constantly. So
Interesting, yeah.
So for me, I see that you're on the same birthday / horoscope as me, and I'm like, who is this person?
I know, we're pretty different, yeah.
Yeah, but in ways that also complement each other,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Yeah, I respect tremendously what you're doing, and it's so cool that you've got your actual sort of like name on this as a testament to the fact that you've been, and this is really the first Zoe Moff album.
It really is. Yeah.
I keep wanting to pronounce Moff as Wolf.
I know,
Doesn't that
people
like
keep
the full
saying
vibe
that
of-
to me, but
Yeah.
it actually doesn't really mean anything.
It looks cool.
Right?
It looks cool. Somebody's gonna keep pronouncing it like that though. So no puedo escucharte.
Oh yeah. So going back to the track, so my friend had friends over and I was working on music and they were really loud. They were actually jamming, they were like playing music. And I just couldn't handle that.
Oh. you wanted to tell other musicians to stop playing music?
Well,
That seems so out of character.
I know.
Oh, you gotta get work done when you gotta get work done.
No, it wasn't about that. I feel like I was just in my head that day, and I was like, just really wanting to be like quiet on my own headphones and my own space, like I don't think it was a great day. I don't know why. I don't really remember. But they were being so loud. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was just like, I was feeling, again, so overwhelmed, which is the title of the track. That's, no puedo escucharte means like, I can't hear you.
I can't hear you, but what you're saying seems to imply that like no puedo escucharte más, like I can't listen to you anymore.
Exactly, like I can't take it. I'm done. That's kind of like, yeah.
Yeah.
So that track was inspired by that moment where I was like, I can't listen to this like music anymore. I was like, I knew like
I need to go for a walk or something.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's kind of how the idea started, and then I was messing around with my guitar and just kind of came out with that bass line, right? And then this track really like almost like wrote itself, I would say, because I wrote the verses, and it's really like the only formally singing track that it's on the record. Like I'm actually singing 2 different verses,
and it's cool because you still have that people call it Sprechstimme. It's like a speaking sort of singing. That's like a very natural sort of voice. It's not that like you're untrained or something.
Right.
But since most of the record is sort of spoken word / rap.
Yeah.
It's very natural to hear like your voice transition between like, just speaking and not really trying it pitches and then like
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, like this track, it really feels like yeah.
It's an overwhelmingly cool track in my
yes, thanks. But then like, this again, going back to this, like, I can't take it, I can't listen to this. This also really like transfer into, again, these conflicts and all this, like, and then it turned into a song that really talked more about like the media and like the hyperstimulation.
Sure.
And
similarly, it becomes so toxic sometimes to stay up to date with all the things that are happening.
Yeah, and like, what can you take from that? What are you actually getting away from that?
What are you getting away from that? And but also, what are you like giving back? Like, how is it like affecting you? And by affecting you, how is it in turn re-affecting the world?
Yes.
Right. A lot of the consumption of like media, a lot of all this news and stuff ends up just kind of stewing in the brain and like making people feel less comfortable about like going out, engaging with the world, because it creates worry, creates all this, it kind of strips away some of the wonder in the world for people, because it kind of almost like makes everything a little scary.
Yeah.
But then again, that is sort of the reality, is that everything is a little scary.
Yeah, and like amongst other things, like I usually say, like, and I believe, and I try to act upon like the fact that music, as musicians and artists, we have two things mainly for me. So we have a privilege and a responsibility. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I feel like the privilege side is really clear, because not everyone can really like, spend time doing what they really love and really craft, their art and themselves and explore all the things we explore as musicians and artists. But also, like, we have a responsibility, because like it or not, if you're on stage, people are looking at you. People are actually listening, even if they don't really are enjoying your music,
Plus, people idolize you for being up there.
Exactly,
like you are somebody's hero.
Every
once in a while.
Yeah,
and a lot sometimes. Yeah.
And that to me is so important. Even if you're not like a stage performer, if you're like some sort of, I don't know, visual artist or dancer, or if you just release music. But like, we do have a responsibility, because we're one of the few people in our own little communities and pockets that actually have like a megaphone to say something. You know what I mean?
It's inspiring,
and that to me is like, man, like we really gotta like grab our little community in our pocket and be that megaphone. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And that's why, to me, this record is also, even though it's really introspective and really challenging to my own self, it's really like a community focused like record. And the process was, like all my friends were in the process. Like it was a collective effort to get this out. And to me, there was like no other way to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I always think of like, let's talk about Jacob Collier, for example, which is...
Jacob Collier?
Jacob Collier!
Oh, you've the one who don't stop the vibe 31.
Yes, they're really so funny.
I love that guy.
We love that guy.
Yeah.
We love that guy, but
it's like I was talking to a friend about him the other day.
Yeah.
What he reminds me of is like, if music is like a church, and like people go there to like, worship, he's like choir boy.
Yes.
He's like sitting by the altar and he's like, oh, we love it so much. It's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got such a childlike sort of sense.
Childlike. He's really joyful too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I always think of him because I really admire himself as a musician and as a producer and composer. But like, have you listened to the last record he put out?
I have not. No.
Great. So you should check it out. It's way more like poppy. But the coolest thing of that record is that he really like collaborated with a lot of people on it, which I really appreciated, because the first record that came out, it was like, mainly produced by him, and like it was pretty much him on all the instruments and all the vocals and everything, which I think it's like really, really cool. But to me, and circling back to like this record, it's like music is collective, you know what I mean? Like music is a social interaction within itself.
with yourself sometimes.
With yourself and like within itself.
And your own thoughts and like what comes up when you play a note, what comes up when you play a note wrong.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. That's absolutely true. And I think it's an understated part about music is that so much of it just traditionally in an ancient way came because people were together and making noises for each other.
Yes.
And I think there's something sort of missing sometimes when you're just, in your own room writing a song for yourself that nobody else will ever hear.
Yep.
And all this good stuff, it's almost sort of artificial in a way.
Yeah.
Where, the immediacy of like a jam, for example, can really bring out so much special perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So music, as you were saying earlier, is both privilege and a responsibility.
Yeah.
Where when you have an important message to share with the world, it will always come from your perspective. And honoring that and saying to yourself, my perspective is valuable and people deserve to hear it because it's just as important as everybody else's perspective. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to take it upon myself to go one step further and really think about what it is that I am going to say into this megaphone. Mm-hmm. And doing so with that mentality, I think, is exactly what it is that people need to be doing with music. I see music as not just like a megaphone, but sometimes it's like a megaphone that like puts a little virus in somebody's head that makes them kind of like change sometimes the way they look at something.
Shift everything.
That's really all that's required, I think, in the world is a shift in perspective. And if music has that power, then we absolutely have the responsibility to put the right words into people's minds. So.
Yeah, and like I had that breakthrough for myself like really last year, like really clearly at one point when I actually decided to like start working on this, and because I was thinking for myself and I was like, what am I doing with music? Like, yes, I am a musician full time, and that's like the best feeling in the world.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's inspiring.
Yes. Like, and I'm so grateful, and it's so good to also be surrounded by a community of people who are like what they want to be doing full time, like.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It is so beautiful. And, but then like I sat with myself and I was like, okay, what am I trying to say with all these bands I'm playing with? What am I trying to say when I play bass? Like, right, like all these different things. And I sat down with that thought for a couple months.
And this is what came out.
And this is what came up.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And honestly, that's such a mature and noble sense that you're developing, because as you might be aware, people just play music for their entire life and like not really say anything.
Right.
Just kind of enjoy that they're capable of playing. And sometimes, those people get pretty famous.
Yeah.
And even like get to live out the dreams of so many musicians that, take it upon themselves to kind of treat what they're doing with a different level of objectivity, of criticism of what you're doing, where you're kind of critiquing yourself in the mentality of like, well, what is this really providing to the world?
Yeah.
What am I really going to leave people? Is it just going to be, really groovy stuff that they can dance to, or is something else meant to come out of me? And everybody's got a different answer.
Yeah, and also understand that it's a process, right? That's always, hopefully it'll always change.
Sure. This might be what you need to say right now. But the world changes, and maybe there's something else.
Yeah, it's almost like just getting that out. Like almost like this, like, I don't know, ball, like your chest that you're feeling so strongly, like I finished this and now I'm working on my next record and it's totally different. You know what I mean? And
that's so cool. So you already started kind of going into
I write a whole lot, and I'm also like a hyperactive person. So yes.
I get that.
I sent the final mixes to mastering and I was like, cool.
What's next? I love it. So let's talk a little bit about community, because that is sort of what brings it all back and ties it all together.
Yeah.
You have made such a lovely community around yourself here in Colorado during your time here.
Yeah.
That I don't know anybody that wouldn't want to work with you. Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Who did you put on this record? Why did you choose them? And how was the process of working with them, either locally or potentially if you were away?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. So first off, I feel like, let's say like spiritually speaking, like this record really is also a result of my 5 years here in Colorado and all the people that were a part of that and all the music that was a part of that. Because really, if I think of myself writing this same record, living somewhere else, it would probably not sound the same way.
So did you have a very clear idea of everybody's parts when you were writing this record, or did you give them a little freedom?
Yeah, I definitely gave them a lot of freedom. The way my process was in this record, though, was I would write the song and then I would produce it on the box on my computer, and most of the times track the instruments I could play, and then outsource that. You know what I mean? So I would have an idea, and if it was drums, I'm really not a drummer, so I would like, use a sample or just build like a drum loop that I would like, and then just bring it to the person that was playing and be like, hey, this is the vibe, this is really what we want to portray. We would talk about the meaning of the song too, which is really important to me. And then I would let them do their thing. Like, for example, Nico Jimenez is the drummer and percussion player on Contacto Pleno and Bestia Göce, which we actually tracked in Mexico City, which was absolutely awesome. I don't know if you've been there, but
I have not.
You should. Mexico City slaps.
I've heard a lot of good things about Mexico City.
Yeah.
How is the music scene down there?
Yeah, I was only there for a month, which is a lot, but I didn't really get to like dip my toes a lot on the music scene. But I did go out and meet a lot of really cool musicians, and then Nico and I ended up recording La Bestia in Mexico City, which is a really dope recording studio up there, and just the energy was great, and really the process with Nico, for example, on drums was I sent him the demos and I was like, hey, this is like the sample drum that I have. This is really what I want to portray. And then we sat at the studio probably for like a good 45 minutes, just talking about the song, talking about really what we want to get across, and then trying things out, So in response to your question, yes, there was a lot of freedom, but to me, it's less of what you play and really what you're trying to get across. Mm-hmm.
It was collaborative, but you wanted the message of the song to remain what it was. And so you invited people to collaborate within, like, hey, does this message resonate with you? Do you want to do something to kind of enhance it?
Yeah, and something that I've really been trying to do is like, again, like bring my community into this. And also, like, if there was someone that I, like, started working on, like, freshly that I didn't really know before on this record, like, to me, we gotta get to know each other. Like, I'm not just gonna, like, hire you as a freelancer if I don't know you. Like, I want to have a Zoom meeting with you, or I want to go get a coffee and, like, really talk about what this means to me, what your views on your work are,
Yeah.
Because that's just, like, meaningful to me, It's the little things, really.
Of course.
Yeah.
Whenever you're working with somebody, having it be like a culture fit, to use like the corporate terminology, is already important when it comes to just sitting at desks next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, when you're trying to put out a record that actually has a very distinct message behind it, this isn't like, funk, a funk discography of like random stuff. This is like actually really interesting. And in particular, I think, to sort of go back to some of the musical commentary, I find it fascinating that, what you're trying to express is very complex. Yeah. It's a very sort of anguishy, sort of deeply seated, angsty kind of feeling.
Yes.
But so many of the tracks are really kind of, apart from sort of the rhythmic kind of shifts that occur, they're rather straightforward. There isn't like a really heavy instrumentation. They sometimes I've noticed that there isn't, a lot of chord changes.
Yeah, harmonic is playing, it's really simple.
It's actually kind of like almost, I think, part of the message in a way that, like, it feels like the simplicity and the complexity of what you're trying to express has this duality to it that really works really well.
Yeah.
And I guess that wasn't a question, just a comment. But if I wanted to turn it into a question, was the specific instrumentation part of what it is that you planned, or did it just kind of come out that way?
That's a great question. I feel like it wasn't really something I planned. It was something I was hearing, you know?
Sure.
And
it's such a big message that honestly, like, getting out of its way is what it feels like.
Yeah, but like there's also like a simplicity to it. Like, for example, the first track, Contacto Pleno, I wrote it. I was sitting on the keys and I was like sitting on a cajon while I was playing the keys. It's like a stool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did that, boom, bam, do that, and then with my right hand, I was doing that,
no, cool.
You know, and I was just my computer, so I like pulled up like a synth patch, and then that's all the song. That's all there is in that song. There's really like another synth melody that comes in and the vocals, but like
haunting little like riff.
Yes,
it repeats a lot and like it gets you sort of. It's got like, I feel like it's got a tritone in it. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But it is a very uncomfortable interval in there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, you know, like going back to the instrumentation is really what I was hearing and what came out. And to me, what the song was asking for, and something that I'm always like trying to be conscious about, it's like, I really want to go for what I'm hearing and what feels good and not what I'm like supposed to be doing. For example, that track, it's like a really intense like synth bass, crunchy sound, and then a cajon peruano, which are opposite sounds, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like all the ways you would think about it. And I feel like that's also something that really sticks out and I really appreciate about the track is that you like, you know, hear that synth bass really intensely and then you just hear like a little cajon doing like a simple groove and you're like,
it's almost creepy in a way.
Yeah, you're like, what's happening though? Yeah. Like, these two really don't go together. But they do.
They do.
You know what I mean?
Definitely do.
Yeah.
And that's the fascinating part about it is, I think, you know, synthetic and organic sounds. Some of them really don't mix that well.
Yeah.
But depending on the context, depending on sort of the way that the instrumentation is even brought in, sometimes what order of instruments appear, they can sort of create a really new kind of texture. And I think that's what you're kind of discovering, I think, with the sounds that you're putting into this record.
Yeah.
Did you write these tracks in order?
Oh, no, I did not.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah.
With a lot of concept albums, I think, you know, telling a story ends up happening sort of chronologically.
Yeah.
But it's not always the case.
Yeah.
And so I feel like with albums like this, I wonder, as I guess a musician as well, when I want to try to lay out an album, if it was something like this, I feel like the first track is almost setting like the scene.
Yeah.
You know, like creating the abstract to the essay or the introduction like to a book.
Like welcoming in.
Exactly. Yeah. So, which one of these tracks was the one that inspired the album itself?
Yeah, it was probably actually Contacto Pleno, which is the intro.
Yeah,
because it was there were some verses that I wrote in 2021 actually, when I had someone really close to me pass away out of a sudden.
Yeah,
and that was, you know, I wrote those verses and then I actually found them for like a year ago, last year, when I was going through my like journals and stuff. And I was like, you know, when you just like read something or you see something and you're like, yep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you wrote it a long time ago, so that must have been a really interesting sort of
thing. I wrote the words though, but not the music, which was interesting. Yeah. And then like, you know, I started playing the groove and then I was like, oh, it fits like right here. And so that was really, and it's interesting because it's like the only, you know, the 1 minute like spoken word track, but I was like, no, this is gonna like just really open it up to whatever's coming, you know. And really the storyline to me almost like built itself.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a very personal quality, but also, you know, now understanding some of the greater themes that you're trying to build, that personal quality turns into sort of, you know, to credit what you were saying earlier, this responsibility,
Yes.
sort of a thing.
Yeah.
It's you're letting people in so that they could see sort of out from where your mind is, which is really cool.
Yeah, and again, it's like it's really a challenge for me because I'm like used to being the bass player, you know what I mean? I mean,
I get that. Yeah, I get that. That's funny. I never really pieced that together. I guess some instruments tend to not necessarily be the forefront, the, like, you know, creatively, naturally creative, I guess, sort of instruments.
yeah, and it's also like I feel like, you know, like in my experience and my journey, like I used to be and I am the bass player for so many like projects.
Too many
people.
Too
Like
many.
we're gonna go again for that. Too many. One too many.
So it's always like one too many, because anytime I hear like some bands playing a dazzle, I'm like, oh, cool. And then I show up and you're on stage and I'm like, how is this possible?
I just really like playing, you know?
I don't blame you. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And people need good basses. So yeah.
You know, it's good.
It seems like you're having a nice time with it.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. It's great.
Let's talk a little bit about the people who made this record possible.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start from just the aesthetics of the record themselves, actually, itself. The record was designed by a good friend of mine, just like the visual design and graphic design. Ina Mato, she's almost like my cousin, you know. We've been friends from what? Elementary school or something, you know, and yeah, really she's awesome. She actually also worked with me previously to do like the logo of my band People in Between, and yeah, she's great.
It's a really cool picture.
Yeah, the picture was taken by Gabe Rodriguez, actually, and that's me. People have been asking me, like, is that you?
It's hard to tell, but the curly hair kind of gives it away.
Yeah, that's my guitar that I owned for, 20 years now.
Never seen your guitar, but now I've seen it.
I know, but I take her with me everywhere. It's like my baby.
It's a very artistic photo. I love the shading.
And you know what? It was not meant to be for the record. It was just a photo taken.
Just a random one.
Just a random photo. And then I saw the photo and I was like, this is an album cover. What do you mean? Like, and
it's cool.
Referring to the Bestia Göce, the title track, and this like beast and Göce and Gozar in like pleasure. It fitted like right away with me because I was like, I'm naked. So that like really relates to like pleasure and like that sexual, almost like aggressive energy, right? You
can tell you're kind of like laughing or.
Yeah, I am laughing actually. Yeah. So it's like this like blurry, dark, almost like aggressive looking picture, but I'm also naked and laughing. And I was like, okay, this fits like right into it.
I like that it has this sort of like very dark, like almost like a ocean sort of like darkness here, and then like this bright sort of like window.
Yeah,
it's like it's a window. It's the most mundane thing in the world. It's like, okay, there's like the sill. There's like the little part that like rolls up the thing. It's like something that you see in an everyday sort of circumstance, but just the framing of it feels very sort of like supernatural almost.
Yeah, I'm really happy with how it came out. And yeah, I mean, as we mentioned, the record was recorded, most of it in Mexico City and Estudio por la Bestia, which Tibu was the engineer. He's an award-winning engineer, so he's awesome. It was such an honor working with him. Then I did all the production. I produced this whole record, wrote everything, the lyrics and the music. So yeah, that's been awesome. That's been a great thing. And then, yeah, as you mentioned before, on the fourth track, comosifuera, one of my best friends, Verena Fuentes, and absolutely amazing. You know her.
As soon as I heard her voice come on, I was like,
You're like,
damn, that person sounds good. Oh, it's Freya. Of course.
She's something else.
She's got such a voice. It's amazing. It's remarkable.
Yeah. It's
such precision too, just like.
Oh yeah. And
Crazy.
what I love about her, it's like her breathy sound.
Sure. Yeah.
Like she sings and you can hear that. That to me is everything. For some reason, I don't know.
It fits well with the vibe of the album. I feel like, you know, there are singers that sound very resonant and have like really intense sort of like almost like they're playing like you know. And I've come to really appreciate so much of like because that's a very classical sort of thing when you sing in opera or when you're singing arias and stuff, like having that sort of super pure sweet tone gives the sound that you're looking for, whereas like modern day pop, jazz, stuff like that, you can just spread and actually get to where your voice sounds like you,
right,
as opposed to like, you know, all the greats of the classical world. So yeah, I think Brenna does a really, really good job at that, and adds something really special to that track because there's sort of a handoff. It's like a call and response kind of thing happening. Let's look. We haven't really talked about this track yet.
Oh yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. Yeah. This is the oldest track on the record, actually.
So this first one that you wrote, or
yes, yes. Well, the first one I actually fully produced.
I think.
Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a record that talks about women and just like the struggles of being a woman in like the music industry, and also just the fact, it's just really almost like a hug to like women, and like it's a really feminist song. And so having B on it really made a lot of sense because actually Berna. Yeah.
I figured.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna have to call her that. That's cool.
Yeah, I like B, right?
Yeah, I struggle sometimes with not saying Verena.
Right.
But I think this will fix it.
Yeah.
If anything, I'll have to say Verena.
Yeah.
It's not a good sound. It's not a good sound. I don't know why. But yeah.
We and I were co-writing another song, not this one. Right around March 8th, a couple of years ago, and then that kind of inspired this song, and then we ended up living together for the last couple of months till now. And I was writing this song, and I was like, hey, I would like love your vocals on this, and that's kind of how this song started like crafting out. It was also like one of the first songs that I actually liked the way I was rapping, because I've been like practicing. I'm no vocalist, I'm no singer, again, it's a game, it's an exploration.
You sound great on it. I mean,
thank you.
Legitimately, I don't think that you would have allowed yourself to even release an album that you don't sound good on.
I mean, yeah.
But I know it can be such a challenge to like explore a new dimension in your musicality with especially the voice. It's a personal thing. But I couldn't imagine this record without you singing or rapping.
Okay, well,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like I said, the most personal instrument that exists, and so
yes, it really is.
To that end, it's such a personal message. It needs to come from where it came from.
Yeah, totally. But so that was like really the first track that was fully produced out of all of this. And then No Puedo Escucharte, the third track, that was actually so fun. My friend Koi Lim, the singer from J. Oracle.
Okay.
She's an absolutely amazing musician and composer. She's insane. But we were just hanging out, and I was working on the record a couple months ago, and I was telling her, I was like, hey, like, I got this song, and I'm like kind of stuck on the background vocals, like, would you want to listen to it? And she was like, yeah, of course. So we just like went and got some Chinese food. And, we were playing the track, and she was like, hang on a sec. And she pulls out her mic, grabs the stand, grabs the pop filter. And she's like, press record. And she just like starts tracking background vocals. And, it was like 2 a.m. at this point.
Of course.
And, of course. I was like, wait. So I like press pause, and we start talking about it. And we start like crafting out all these ideas. And we get so inspired, like pretty much out of nowhere. Maybe it was the Chinese food.
That's the first time I've ever heard anybody refer to Chinese food as inspired. Hey, from wherever you get it from, you know?
never know.
Yeah.
You know, but
Maybe it
yeah.
was really good Chinese food. Or maybe you got like a terrible stomach ache and that's part of where this came from.
Right. You're like, I can't take it.
Yeah, I mean, that fits the vibe a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, that process with Koi was amazing. And I actually started producing this track with Koi at Calvin's, the drummer's house.
Right.
And so, yeah, you know, really Koi's help with the background vocals was amazing. It was such a fun process. You know what I mean? Like staying out till so late, just like, you know, going back and forth between ideas and like having me record, having her record, screaming into the mic, whispering into the mic. Like that's something else. Like I love ear candy. You know what I mean? Like I love little things that you can barely hear that come out of one side, or like the autopan, or those things to me like make the song.
Yeah, it gives it a little character, you know.
Yeah.
With some of the synthesizers that you used on this album too. Of course, you mentioned that there was a analog Moog synthesizer involved with this, which they're always such unique instruments. Even two of the exact same models have like their own little temperaments to them.
Yes.
And I always really, really enjoy hearing. I feel like I knew it was a Moog, but I don't like open my mouth about it until like
yeah. With you.
And then I'm like, I knew it. Of course it is. Yeah, so they're incredible instruments, and
they really are.
Yeah, they fit really well with so many different contexts too. So it's interesting just how they kind of adapt to what you need them to do so regularly. So I really love hearing all the stories that come from the process of creating an album.
Yeah.
And, you know, staying up till 2 a.m, getting Chinese food, all this good stuff. Do you have a favorite story from the creation of this album?
Ooh, I love that. Gotta think about that one.
Okay. We could come back to that.
Yeah.
Of course, this album, you know, happened to span multiple countries.
Yes.
It involved people who live in very different places.
Yeah.
It is a connection to your community that you cultivated here in Colorado.
Yes.
But it is also sort of a stepping forward into a new place kind of album where you're giving us a little gift before you have to leave.
Yes. Which it really does feel like that.
And so, you know, that is to me a story in and of itself. But if you have a fun one that comes to mind, feel free to share.
You know, I think, I don't know if it's fun, but I think that really like the support that I got from all my people around me to really like push this and move forward with the process. Because as I mentioned, I've been trying to like release something for 2 years, and I've always gotten in the way of myself. You know what I mean? There was really no other external factors. It was just me, you know? And so having my community and my people like really like, I don't know, like support me through that. I'm also someone that I talk about my music and, you know, like me as a musician as if it was everything, you know, for me.
I mean, it kind of is. It's not any secret that you're a specialist.
Yeah.
What could say? Yeah.
And like, you know, like I don't know, go to like my partner or my best friend, I'd be like, I feel like this is bad, like this is so shitty, like I'm so ashamed, and like all this like negative feelings, and like all my people just being like, yo, like you got something to say, you know, and like kind of going back to this like uncomfortable feeling, really almost like discomfort, this like unique and different sound, you know what I mean, that I wasn't even expecting from myself, to be honest. And just like showing these demos to people at the very beginning of the process, I was like, this sounds so different. Like this sounds almost like out of the box. And I was like, no one's gonna like that. You know what I mean? Well, also, yeah.
I totally get what you mean, because when you sent me a demo way back, I don't know, like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
I was excited to hear what it is that you were working on, and then you started rapping, and I was like, whoa, yes! In Spanish, too. I was like, hell yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I love that. I remember sending you that demo.
It warms my heart that I didn't listen to it for like a week, because I was like in a week of hell, and then I was going back through my text messages and I saw, oh yeah, Zoe sent me something. I gotta lose it.
Yeah. But like part of that was again like that was like you're my people, you know what I mean? Like you're part of that, and like sending demos to my people and like hearing feedback and like honest feedback, you know what I mean? I don't need you to like be like, oh, that's like the best thing you've ever written.
I would
like,
let you know if it sucked.
Yeah,
it didn't suck. It was really cool.
Appreciate that, but that's why I like trust people like you. Like when I'm like sending demos, and that to me is like it's like a huge part of the process. Like sending demos to my friends, like having them like respond to that. That to me, like those are the little things that really help me. Like, cool, okay, we got this. Like let's like push through. And really, again, like outsourcing, like calling my homies, be like, yo, let's get some food. Like help me unblock this background vocal thing. Like. Same thing actually with Krishna on guitar. No Puedo Escucharte, the third track. He tracked the guitar also really late when we were on the road. We were actually in the Berkshires.
Oh wow!
Yes. I was touring with this band called the Black Legacy Project. This was in January, end of January, and it was pretty late. We had a day off, and I was working on the track, and it was really like kind of like the first instances of the track, and I had like the form, but when you feel like something's missing, and I was like, I know there's something missing, and I've been working for the track for like a month, and he's like, what are you working on? And I'm like, this. I was like, do you want to like track some guitar on it? And he like did a really cool thing and started shredding a solo at the end, and that solo really opened up the whole like ending, chaotic, climax of the song,
Yeah.
So it really is like those small moments and those little things to me that like craft the whole record within itself,
Yeah. And it's so cool to have something that's both a finished product, but also sort of like a memory for you.
Oh,
all those things.
Totally. Yeah, it's like yeah.
So Bestia Göce
Yeah.
is coming out soon.
Yes.
Who are these wonderful people who helped you put it together?
Yeah. So shout out to Danny Pauta, mixing engineer, for most of the record. Working with him has been amazing. He works for Sunbreaker Records, and we actually mix it here in Denver. Shout out to Steph Flynn in Australia for mastering the track. Nico Jimenez, Calvin Davis, Krishna Guthrie, Coy Lim, Verna Fuentes. What else? Family, friends, all the homies I send demos to. Ian, Gabe, Bamboo, all these people that were really like my second ears,
Takes a village.
Yeah. Yes, it does take a village. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on producing and almost releasing this fantastic piece of art. I'm excited to share it with people. I already played a little bit of it for my roommate, and he
liked it.
Awesome. And he's from Miami, and he listens to Bad Bunny and shit. So
that
he starts to impress with stuff like this.
Oh yeah. Well, and for the world out there in the streaming world, the first single's coming out on May 3rd. And the record itself is coming out May 17th.
So keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out.
That's gonna be right up a couple weeks from now.
Only a couple weeks from now.
Yeah. Nice.
Anyways, thank you so much for having me. I love what you do. We all love things so far working in the community. So thank you, Pedro, for just always being willing to help out and really like provide this source and medium for people to, really share what they're about and their work.
I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it without all the wonderful things to share that you guys put out. The community is so talented, and I just want to see everybody just flourish and have a great time doing music. Yeah. Love you guys. Thank you for being here, Zoe. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and all the best on your travels and future musical endeavors.
Thank you so much. Same to you.